let me ask you this. Do you, as somebody who's up there and sees it, do you see that there is a conflict of interest there and with a lot of these guys that are doing this? And if so, does it, is there a way to stop it, or is it just kind of par for the course?
Yes, there's a conflict of interest, and it erodes trust in government. If someone is doing their job and voting, and at the same time trading stocks. Now, do I think the vast majority of members of Congress are doing it in a way to game the system? I don't, but it is a conflict of interest that people feel erodes trust. And so that's why I supported Abigail Spanberger and Chip Roy's Trust Act years ago to ban it and to say people should, family members can put their money in a trust and members shouldn't be trading. And I introduced a legislation I supported it recently, which AOC and a Republican teamed up. I'm trying to Tim Burchett to ban the trading. The challenge has been we haven't gotten a vote. I mean, I introduced a 5-point political reform plan that went viral, where I said ban members of Congress from trading stocks, have term limits for members of Congress. Members of Congress can't become lobbyists, and take away PAC money and lobbyist money. Clean up the system. That people are desperate for that. But what happens is that every couple of years we introduce these bills. Term limits people have been introducing since the 1990s. And then the Speaker of the House, whether it's a Democrat or Republican, hasn't brought it for a vote. It's kind of the same thing with the Epstein files, right? Once we get a vote on the floor of the House of the Epstein files, I think we'll get an overwhelming vote majority, a huge majority with Republicans and Democrats. I think if you have a vote on a bill banning stock trading, banning PAC money, banning lobbyist money, telling members you can't become lobbyists, you'd have an overwhelming vote. So the game is don't bring it for a vote. So how can people here, because you've got a savvy audience, really see where folks stand? They can look at who sponsored the AOC Burchett bill, who sponsored the Trust Act, like where do members stand? And I don't think we're even at 100 co-sponsors, anywhere close to 100 co-sponsors yet, out of 435. So we've got to get, at least 200, 250 members of Congress.
And not to put you on the spot, because obviously, near there, but I remember when Pelosi was actually asked about it when she was Speaker, she said, no, I think it's a free market. Congress should be allowed to trade. And then now the speakers of when there's people of Republicans up there, they're like, we don't want, it's very difficult to get this done when the actual speaker of the majority parties are kind of like, hey, it is what it is.
I think that's right. I mean, and then I think she said, no, okay, now we should listen to people, like we need to ban it. I think her point was that most people in Congress, Republican or Democrat, aren't coming to Congress to game the system and engage in insider trading. But what she wasn't seeing is that the perception out there is so negative, and that there are conflicts of interest to restore trust in government. I'm not saying this will restore trust. We got to also ban PAC money. We got to ban lobbyist money. But yes, we got to restore this trust. And by the way, we should do it for the president and the vice president too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. What happened on Friday, we could talk about. But here's what I think a lot of politicians may misunderstand about the regular voter when it comes to this stuff. It's not that we think that their voting, is so much that they're making votes that are affected by their trades or their investments. It's more the other way, because you may not make a vote that affects your investment, but your investment is going to affect your vote. You understand what I mean by that? So in other words, they may not be buying something and trading or making a vote on that trade they made. But if they do have money in individual stocks that they've invested in trade over time, you can't see your nest egg, your retirement, the money you have when you leave Congress and say, I'm going to vote against my best interest. You know what I mean? My self-interest. It's almost an inhuman thing. Like, why would a human being have money in a defense stock or, in Palantir or in whatever, and then vote against their interests, right? Would they, what I'm saying? I think that's some of the things that
No, I agree. But I think people can look at people's voting records, right? Like, do they vote against the defense budget, or do they vote for it? Do they vote for holding prescription drugs accountable or not? In terms,
that could be PACs as well, or donors, right? Like we were talking about some of the PACs, like you talked about. Like I said, I'm not getting into the politics of it, but you had recently talked about APAC, right?
I had, but I want to be clear, because APAC is just one PAC.
Yes.
There are hundreds of these PACs. And my view is we need to abolish all the PACs. And the most pernicious PACs are big pharma, actually. They're the ones that put the most lobbyists and the most money into Congress. And so the question I think people need to ask is, why is it that people aren't standing for Medicare for all, or having insurance companies not be making the profits that they are, or Americans paying so much for prices, or our huge bloated defense budget?
Yeah.
In my view, the biggest reason is the PACs and the money into the campaigns. I'm not saying that the stock trading isn't an issue with Crest, but when I actually interact with members of Congress, and I see their reluctance to vote with the people on these things, I think that the biggest issue is money in politics. And that's why Bernie, when he started his campaigns, and a lot of the reform campaigns, start with get rid of the super PACs, get rid of this money. But I think in addition, we shouldn't have members becoming lobbyists. We shouldn't have members trading. It's an easy way we shouldn't have the president, the vice president trading. We shouldn't have Supreme Court justices trading, and that this is a reform, and there are trusts. The trust act says, look, put it in a trust where it's clear that the member isn't engaged in any of that activity. So
and truth is, some of us are just jealous. I'm not even going to lie. Sometimes it's not even about the trade. It's just like, I wish that, because remember, right before COVID happened, you had that group of Congress members go in with that closed door meeting with scientists and with people from that whole world, come out, sell all their stocks, and then 2 weeks later the whole market tanked, and that kind of
that was really what triggered a lot of this.
Yeah, that's what kicked it all off.
Because I think that there people were really had some kind of information. Now, just because I want to be factual, none of those senators after investigation were found for insider trading. But
who investigated them? I really don't know.
I think the Justice Department did investigate. But the point is that people said, well, look, you shouldn't be in a situation where you're getting sensitive information and then making decisions based on that, or the perception of that. And that's why I think it's a very legitimate issue. And that's why right after that, I got on the Abigail Spanberger and Chip Roy Trust Act and have been pushing this. And my view is that we should be having more people in Congress push for it. I mean, people should be asked about it, right? Like, I never get asked about this in a town hall. Are you on the Abigail Spanberger Trust Act? I don't get asked about it when I travel. So if people want this to be an issue, then members of Congress need to be asked about it. I get asked a lot about healthcare. I get asked a lot about billionaire tax. I get asked a lot about the issue of jobs. So I think we need to get more members of Congress calling for the ban.
All right, and I know, how much more time do you have? Because I want to make sure I respect your schedule here.
I think they've got me scheduled. How about 10 more minutes? Is that good?
10's good, because I'd love to tap on two more things and then ask a question or two from the audience that, that's not crazy, because these guys are. So real quick, tariffs. One thing.
How have the comments been?
Because my audience is probably the most diverse and oldest on the Twitch site. It's a lot of people having fun and trolling and having a good time, but so far everything's good, because I think the one thing that they appreciate, at least I appreciate the most, is that you're not campaigning on here, because I don't like when some politicians do that. You're being very straightforward.
Politicians on?
I had AOC on when GameStop happened. Brian Deese, the former head of the national, he was on recently. I've invited other Republicans on, but they all say no. And this isn't a slight at them. I just think that the Twitch atmosphere probably comes across as a little bit different in the political space. So tell Massey that I'm okay to come on, because I'd like to pick his brain too.
I think you're very substantive, and I think that we need more conversations like this. And I learned something about that trust thing that I'm going to look up to have.
Well, one thing I like to do is I tell my audience, like, raising taxes on billionaires is great, right? But if you don't cut spending, it doesn't do anything. It's like having somebody who has a spending problem and they make $250,000 a year, but they spend $300,000 a year.